pasa?
With love. Most of the comrades had a dream, a vision. They planted the seeds, but they did not live to witness the fruits of their labor. Their labor was not for self, but for love. They forced the colonial occupiers of the oil fields to introduce gratuity plans, pension plans. They had a raging battle for self-government, home rule, and adult suffrage, and later independence. They struggled later for nationalization of the oil industry, the sugar industry. Their intentions were for those who labor to hold the reins of power. These stalwarts fought for the distribution of the state wealth equitably for the residents and citizens of this Twin Island state. They struggled for a just society. Today, we boast of reserves of over $30 billion, TT. We boast of almost full employment and falling inflation. But what is the reality? Every night for the past 6 weeks, we tune on to the various radio and television stations and partake in an obscene display by senior political leaders of this country fighting for their political lives, while exposing all their corrupt wheeling and dealing without any shame or sorrow or fear. This madness reminds me of Ali Baba and her 27 thieves. Comrade, comrade, come home before they start to call your name. You are not from that cut of cloth. We will kill the fattest sheep or goat. Let me, however, warn you, you don't have much time. The door of the ark is about to shut. And my grandmother used to say, when you play with dogs, you get fleas. Show me your friends, and I'll tell you who you are. This government has lost its way. After 3 years in office, they have failed to kickstart this economy. We must use all legitimate methods to encourage them to go. They cannot fall lower than this. I'm making a call for all hands to come on board and to help push them aside. The future of our children and our country is at stake. Enough of this rot. Enough is enough. Let us join hands to save our nation. Thank you.
First Vice President, Comrade Carlton Gibson, our featured speaker, dear friend and comrade of the O.W.T.U, Comrade Sister Sunity Maharaj, renowned political commentator and writer, delegates to the 74th Annual Conference, fellow comrades in the leadership of the Joint Trade Union Movement, our regional and international guests, specially invited guests, members of the media, well-wishers, friends, sisters and brothers, all supporters of this noble cause, our campaign for justice, good evening. Comrade Chairman, I always start by humbly paying my respects to our founding fathers, all the past leaders, the martyrs, our foundation members, and workers generally, all of whom through their sacrifice, through significant contribution, dedication and commitment to struggle, cleared the path and laid the foundation for this militant, independent, progressive, great and noble union. It is often said that a society that has no respect or regard for the invaluable contribution of its elders is like a rudderless ship, and is one that, by that very action, is destined to bring about its own demise. Therefore, Comrade Chairman, permit me once again at this 74th Annual Conference of Delegates to pay respect and tribute to two such heroes, one who passed away at the age of 93 only 6 weeks ago, a mother not only to the O.W.T.U, but to the entire labor movement, Comrade Sister Thelma Williams. The other such hero is the first General Secretary of the O.W.T.U, who passed away last November at the incredible age of 110 years, Comrade E.R. Blades. Also permit me to pay respect to another great fallen comrade, Comrade Ian Teddy Belgrave, who passed away last Friday night. Comrade Belgrave was the Chief Education and Research Officer of the O.W.T.U during those critical years between 1975 and 1978. From his fearless and militant struggle against racism at the George William University in Canada, to his involvement in the formation and the leadership of the movement for social justice, Ian Teddy Belgrave will be forever remembered as a radical activist committed to social, economic and political justice for ordinary people, and one who held the firm belief that everyone counts. Let this 74th Annual Conference of Delegates recognize this extraordinary progressive thinker and activist. Let me also take this opportunity to congratulate the Communication Workers Union, as this year they celebrate a significant milestone of 60 years worth of struggle and achievement. But, Comrade Chairman, our beloved country is in a state of crisis. We have to recognize that this systemic crisis is manifesting itself in various forms. The system of governance itself has failed. Our post-colonial state has collapsed. Making matters worse is the high level of bad leadership by the current People's Partnership government. The manifestation of this crisis can be felt at the national level, in communities, in workplaces, in schools, in hospitals, in both private and public sector. There's a general feeling of despair, anxiety, fear, unhappiness among workers and among ordinary men and women and youth who desperately try every day just to survive. It is a feeling of lost hope where the country seems to be spiraling out of control, degenerating into barbarism. This is not what our forefathers fought and died for. They did not fight to create an eat-a-food culture. They did not fight to create a society based on individualism. They did not fight for self-governance so that some politicians can pillage and plunder the treasury, enriching themselves. They did not fight to build a country where party finances reign supreme. Comrade Chairman, this is the kind of country we see being constructed. We have to recognize and be aware of the serious implications for us as workers and for the entire society when we have a failed system of governance. And within that system, we have politicians hell-bent on using the public purse for personal gain. Today, we are seeing the highest level of disrespect and disregard for our democratic institutions. The breakdown in governance is also being used by employers to attempt to further exploit workers and attack trade unions. The collapse of governance is resulting in the disintegration of state enterprises at an accelerated rate. The performance of important state enterprises and the public trust and confidence in political institutions are now at an all-time low. The crisis is deep and cannot be overstated, especially when it is being driven by corruption and nepotism. We have to be clear about the nature of this crisis. When a person like Jack Warner can have the audacity to present himself as a viable alternative to the corrupt UNC and PNM, then we have reached rock bottom. But even worse, when large numbers of persons actually believe that he is their savior and he has the answer, then you know for sure we are in very deep, troubled and problematic waters. But actually, we could fall even below the bedrock with the dangerous possibility that a person like Jack Warner could win the Chaguanas West by-election and then even become Prime Minister. Comrade Chairman, with a Jack Warner as Prime Minister, the international perception of Trinidad and Tobago will be that we have moved from being a banana republic and we have become a dashing republic. However, the O.W.T.U cannot, shall not, and will not stand idly by and allow this fascist nightmare to be unleashed on the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Let us not forget his first action as Minister of National Security. His action was to personally oversee the breaking down of the highway reroute strike camp, using state armed forces. Let us not forget that the Prime Minister and her entire cabinet supported that. Mr. Chairman, the crisis first manifested itself in the industrial relations front, starting with a complete disregard for the workers' agenda. A workers' agenda that represents an articulation by the labor movement for a different and better Trinidad and Tobago. This evening, at this 74th Annual Conference of Delegates, I want to say that the non-implementation of the workers' agenda has further plunged our country into crisis. It is this understanding by the Joint Trade Union Movement that led us to choose the theme for this year Labour's Day: implement the workers' agenda. Time for action is now. Mr. Chairman, permit me to paint a global picture for everyone here and then to link that global situation to our own local situation. We are in the middle of a global economic and political crisis. It is in fact a crisis of Western democracy and global capitalism. The intensity of this crisis is unprecedented in our post-World War II era. It is naturally taking different forms in different countries. What is for sure is that it is a long period of economic distress and popular discontent. In 1989, the Soviet Union collapsed with its model of socialism, which C.L.R. James described as state capitalism. When this model also collapsed throughout Eastern Europe, neoliberal writers pronounced that it was the end of history. It was an era of deregulation and the domination of market forces.